If you want to go ahead, if you brought your Target gift cards, you can bring those up to me now. For those of you who didn't see the message, some scam artists got a hold of our, we believe, our church's directory and started texting several, I think a dozen or so members, asking them saying, "This is Minister Nick Jones. I need you to buy me some Target gift cards and send them to me." And so if you got that message, it was not me. I will not ask for Target gift cards, please. I would ask for Cane's, Raising Cane's gift cards. But no, in all seriousness, I hope no one fell victim to this that we aren't aware of. I reached out to most people, and it seems like most people saw through it in time. But yeah, seriously, I'm never going to text everyone individually asking them to send me gift cards for any reason, even if it seems like a charitable one. So if that happens again in the future, red flags go off, please. But with that out of the way, good morning again. We've got a lot of reading to get through today for John chapter 11. It's about 45 verses. So I'm not going to take a lot of time with an extended introduction or some kind of allegorical story from my past, other than to simply say this. Far and away, the most popular, and in my opinion, the most compelling argument or question or criticism of the existence of God or faith in that God, the most compelling criticism of that idea is this question that is on the board right here. How could a good God allow evil or allow suffering to exist in his world? And so again, this is the question that we are going to sort of use as our backdrop today as we study John chapter 11. Okay? So let's look at chapter 11, verse 1 right now. Now a man named Lazarus was sick. He was from Bethany, the village of Mary, and her sister Martha. Okay, Lazarus is sick, and it doesn't tell us this detail, but sick, of course, means sick and dying. And where he lives is about a day and a half or 2 days' journey from where Jesus currently is. So Bethany is about 2 days away from where Jesus currently is. And this is an issue because when you're really sick, to the point where you're sick and dying in the ancient world, 2 days was often not enough time for you to even survive that long. Okay, so keep that in mind because the timeline is going to be a bit more important later on. This Mary, whose brother Lazarus now lay sick, was the same one who poured perfume on the Lord and wiped his feet with her hair. So the sisters sent word to Jesus, "Lord, the one you love is sick." Now there are a few other accounts in the Gospels, specifically Matthew, Mark, and Luke, where we see Jesus and his relationship with Lazarus, Mary, and Martha here. But really it sums it up here in this last line here, the fact that they refer to Lazarus as such. They don't say, "Jesus, Lazarus is sick, your friend Lazarus." They simply say, "The one you love is sick." And so again, Jesus has a relationship with these three people, and he dearly, dearly loves all of them, but maybe especially so Lazarus. Okay, verse 4. When he heard this, Jesus said, "This sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it." Jesus says, and again, this is kind of an insensitive thing to say, considering the subject, this is for God's glory. And Jesus also, I think inadvertently, acknowledges that a bad thing has happened to a good person here. Lazarus is sick and dying. Lazarus is suffering at this point in time. And as we really talked about and studied last week, this hasn't happened because Lazarus is secretly a bad person and he has ill deeds behind the scenes that no one knows about, and God is punishing him, making him sick, causing him to suffer so that these bad deeds will come out after the fact. No, that's not what's going on, and that's not how God works. Simply, Lazarus is a good man whom has a loving relationship with Jesus, the Son of God, and still something tragic and terrible has happened to him. He has fallen sick and is perhaps about to die. A tragedy has befallen an innocent person. Okay, verse 5. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. In case it wasn't clear 2 verses ago when we told you that Jesus loves them, we're going to go ahead and tell you again. Jesus loves Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was 2 more days. Jesus is the one guy in the world with the power to heal terminal illness. And wouldn't you know it, he has a really good relationship with the guy who needs his terminal illness healed. And it tells us here that is exactly what Lazarus needs. Lazarus is sick, and they're telling Jesus, the one you love is sick, not just to update him, not just to let him know, hey, I'm going to be out a couple of weeks. No, they're letting Jesus know, you need to get here ASAP. He needs a miracle. This is what Lazarus needs. Jesus is the only one in the world capable of doing this. And he just drags his feet here? I mean, if you're reading this for the first time, which I doubt anyone here is, that is the impression you would get. Jesus loves Mary and Martha and Lazarus, but he stays where he is for 2 more days. It doesn't seem like you love this guy, Jesus. It seems like you couldn't be bothered to help him when he was in need. Jesus, you have the power to heal him, and you didn't. It sure seems like you don't actually love him. And maybe if you're here today, maybe in your life, it might seem like this sometimes. It might seem like God doesn't love you either, or isn't interested or there for you. You know, sometimes you will lose something or someone, and the only thing you can really conclude, given the circumstances, is that God was not there when you needed him. God must not even be there at all. I mean, that's the only explanation. Come on. Why else could this or would this have happened to me if an all-loving and an all-powerful God was there watching over me? Verse 7. And then he said to his disciples, let us go back to Judea. But Rabbi, they said, a short while ago the Jews there tried to stone you, and yet you are going back? Jesus, go to Judea. No, that's not a good idea, Jesus. It's dangerous in Judea. And they're right. If you remember the last several weeks of reading, whenever Jesus performs a sign or does something miraculous, a healing, and then teaches about it, the story always seems to end something like this. And the Pharisees who were there, because they saw this sign, plotted to put him to the death. That's how the story always ends. All throughout all of the Gospels, the Pharisees, the Jewish leaders, are trying to murder Jesus. And so he says, we're going to go to Judea, the headquarters of these Jewish leaders. I don't like that idea, Jesus. They're scared. The religious people want you dead. And to be honest, Jesus, they probably wouldn't mind if we were dead with you. So I don't know if we should go to Judea. All right, verse 9. Jesus answered, are there not 12 hours of daylight? Anyone who walks in the daytime will not stumble, for they see by this world's light. It is when a person walks at night that they stumble, for they have no light. And if this doesn't really make much sense to you, I'll try and interpret what I think Jesus is saying here. He's basically telling them, guys, we do not have long left. I am not going to be here with you forever. You are running out of time by which or for which you will have me, the light of the world, to see with. Okay? I am not going to be with you guys forever. In fact, I'm not really going to be with you guys much longer. If you miss this next sign that I'm going to do, you will never again in your life get to see with your own eyes anything like it. Guys, I know it's a bit scary, and I know you're confused most of the time, but you're not going to get many more opportunities to be with me and watch me do something miraculous. You need to come with me to Judea, even though you're scared. Verse 11. After he said this, he went on to tell them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I am going there to wake him up. And his disciples replied, Lord, if he sleeps, he will get better. They do not want to go to Judea. Even after this sort of dramatic statement Jesus makes about him being the light of the world. No, if he's sleeping, Jesus, if he's sleeping, they're not following what's going on. Okay, if he's asleep, Jesus, that's how he's healing. His body's healing. We shouldn't go there and wake him up. That's bad for him. No. He needs his rest. Jesus, let's just stay put here. Let's just stay put where we are. We don't need to make that journey. We don't need to go wake him up. Let him rest. Okay. Verse 13, this is what Jesus tells him. Jesus had been speaking of his death, but his disciples thought he meant natural sleep. And so he told them plainly, Lazarus is dead. And you can just see the disciples confused. What do you mean he's dead? Jesus, 4 or 5 verses ago, you told us this sickness will not end in death. Okay, so you're telling us he's not going to end in death? Well, there's no reason for us to go to Judea and risk our lives. He's going to be fine. You said he's asleep now. It sounds like he's getting better. It sounds like you were right. He's going to be fine. And now you're saying he's dead? Well, which is it, Jesus? You can't keep going back and forth. He's dead now? You told us 2 days ago he was not going to die. So we stuck around. We didn't do anything. We didn't rush over there. And now he's dead. Verse 15. And for your sake, this is amazing that Jesus says this. I am glad I was not there so that you may believe. But let us go to him. Yeah, he's dead. And I'm kind of glad he's dead. I'm kind of glad that I wasn't there to heal him so that you guys could see what I'm going to do. So that you guys will believe. And you got to remember, the disciples don't know the ending to this story. They haven't been reading this often ever since they were teenagers like most of us in here have. They cannot guess what is coming next. And they must have been so confused. First he says this won't end in death. And then he says he's dead. And now we got to go to Judea so that we can believe you. No, Jesus, if you say he's dead, we believe you. I'll take your word for it. We don't need to go and risk our lives just to check to make sure he doesn't have a pulse. Okay, we believe. They must be so confused. What is going on? Verse 16. Then Thomas, also known as Didymus, your version might say known as the twin, said to the rest of the disciples, let us go that we may die with him. And you can see there's probably a bit of sarcasm in this here. All right, if we're all going to go and we're all going to die in Judea, we might as well all go and die together. That's what Thomas says. Verse 17, at least he's on board, right? On his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. All right, now remember the timeline here. Jesus gets a message to come to Bethany. Lazarus is sick and he's about to die. And then he waits a couple days, and then he makes a 2-day journey to Bethany, to where Lazarus is. Okay, he got there very, very late. He didn't just miss Lazarus' dying moments. He didn't just miss Lazarus' death. He missed Lazarus' funeral. Okay? He's been buried for 4 days. And I mean, seriously, guys, we just had a memorial service for Ruth here a couple weeks ago. Can you imagine if a week after we'd had that service, someone shows up and says, hey, I'm here for Mrs. Short. I'm here for Mrs. Short. Yeah, I'm here to grieve for Mrs. Short. Everyone in here would be thinking what I would probably have to say to this person. Yeah, you're a little late, bro. I mean, seriously. I mean, I know that's kind of funny, but this isn't just awkward. This isn't just a little uncomfortable for everyone. This is embarrassing. Jesus, you love this guy. He was dying and we told you about it and you couldn't be bothered to come down here. We had his funeral 4 days ago and now you want to show up? This is embarrassing, Jesus. You're so late. You loved this guy? Verse 18. Now Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem, and many Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them in the loss of their brother. And these 2 verses kind of seem like an aside for the narrative that we're reading here about Jesus and Lazarus' death, but it's not. This is a really important detail. There are so many people from around town or from around the community coming to comfort Mary and Martha because this was a tragedy, okay? It's not like Lazarus had been sick for a while and, oh, well, we knew it was coming and we're just thankful for the time we had with him. Or he was older, he lived a good life and, you know, everyone dies. It's always sad, but hey, we're just thankful. No. Lazarus has died young. This is a tragedy. And for a week after the fact, people from all around town, everyone he maybe ever knew or ever spoke to, is coming, trying to comfort the loved ones he left behind, loved ones who do not know how to move on. Verse 20. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed at home. Lord, Martha said to Jesus, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. And just look at this. Jesus, where were you? Have you ever said this before? Have you ever asked this question before? God, where were you? Why aren't you helping me? God, why would you allow this to happen to me continuously? I mean, Martha, if you had been here, my brother would not be dead right now. God, it's your fault. If you had been here, my mom wouldn't have gotten sick. Or if you had been here, if you cared, my relationship wouldn't have ended. Or I wouldn't have this long-term disability that affects my quality of life so profoundly. Or my husband wouldn't have gone away. My son wouldn't be having trouble with the law, legal trouble right now. Or my best friend wouldn't be battling addiction. Fill in the blank. God, where were you? If you are so powerful, if you are so loving, if you can do whatever you want, where were you when I needed you? I mean, maybe you've asked God that very question, or at the very least, something in the same tone as that. And if you have ever asked that before, if the answer to that is yes, I have really good news for you. And it's that there is nothing wrong with your faith whatsoever. You are allowed to ask that question. In fact, some of Jesus' most beloved and closest followers just straight up ask him that very question in the Gospels. And Jesus doesn't chastise them. Jesus doesn't tell Martha right here, oh, will you shut up and stop asking tough questions? You need to have a little bit more faith, sister. You need to have a little bit more faith, brother. No. That doesn't come out of Jesus' mouth here. Look at what she says after this, verse 22. But I know that even now, God will give you whatever you ask. Jesus, even so, despite whatever stupid reason you have for not being here for my brother, I know that you can fix this. Jesus, you can fix this right now. If you want, God will give you anything you ask. And Jesus says this. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Have you ever been to a funeral of someone who died young? Or maybe you've lost someone in your own life. And while you're grieving, everyone around you seems to think that they've got all the answers to your situation. And it's really, really important that they come and let you know that they have the answers. Well, they're at peace now. Hey, I know, don't worry. God has a plan for this. Hey, we will see them again in heaven. Hey, great. Listen, I don't know if you've ever experienced that or you've been the one saying it to someone, but I will let you in on something I have learned from experience the hard way. Those words don't actually make anyone feel any better at all. Verse 24. Martha answered, I know he will rise again in the resurrection of the last day. Jesus, are you really telling me that God's using this, that I'll get to see him again in heaven? I don't care about that at all. Jesus, that doesn't make me feel any better whatsoever. In fact, that probably makes me feel a little worse. That makes me not want to be here anymore because I'll just go see my brother now if it were up to me. And look at what Jesus, no, you don't understand. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live even though they die. And whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this? Do you believe this, he asks. I am the one who ultimately decides who lives. I have the capacity and the authority to bring back life from beyond the grave. I am the resurrection from the dead. Anyone who believes in me will never truly die. He says all this to her, and then I think he looks her in the eyes and asks her, do you believe this? And for those of us here reading today, maybe reading this story for the first time in a while, the question is the same. Do you believe this? I mean, can you believe this? This guy named Jesus who lived 2,000 years ago, who none of us have ever met, none of us have ever heard his physical voice or encountered him physically. This guy, do you believe, can you believe that this guy has the capacity and the authority to raise people from the dead even now? Even though there's stories of him being crucified 2,000 years ago, do you believe that he is alive today and has the power to resurrect people from the dead? I mean, can you believe this? Next verse. Yes, Lord, she replied, I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who is to come into the world. And I can guarantee, I don't want to put words into her mouth, but I can guarantee you she did not know how any of that works. She does not know how Jesus is the resurrection and the life. Even if I die, I will live. I don't have any idea how any of that works, Jesus. But I can tell you, I believe. I believe you are the Messiah and the Son of God. Verse 28. After she said this, she went back and called her sister Mary aside. The teacher is here, she said, and is asking for you. When Mary heard this, she got up and quickly went to him. Now Jesus had not yet entered the village, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who had been with Mary in the house comforting her noticed how quickly she got up and went out, they followed her, supposing she was going to the tomb to mourn there. And when Mary reached the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. And there it is again. Mary finally comes out to see Jesus, and it's the exact same accusation that Martha gave. Jesus, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died. You could have helped him. You could have saved him, and you didn't. Why weren't you here? 33. When Jesus saw her weeping and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. Where have you laid him, he asked. Come and see, Lord. They replied. Okay, so now Jesus, after all of this, after 4 days of waiting, showing up late, after kind of riling up Mary and Martha, the grieving sisters of the one who died, now he wants to go and see the tomb where his beloved friend was laid. Right. And then this next part is such an important moment. I hope we can appreciate it. Jesus wept. Guys, I want you to remember, Jesus already knows what he's going to do. Jesus decided before he even left to head towards Bethany how this story was going to end and what he was going to do, okay? So Jesus knows that in a couple verses, Lazarus is not going to be dead anymore, and there's not going to be any reason for anybody to cry. In fact, this is a happy story. Honestly, one of the happier stories in the New Testament, in my opinion. There is literally nothing to cry about. And yet, he weeps. These two words, this is the shortest verse in the Bible, and is perhaps the most important part of this critical account in Jesus' ministry. Despite the fact that God is fully aware of how everything is going to work out in the end it will all be peace and joy and happiness. Despite that, God still weeps when humans weep. He is still in anguish over human suffering. And we've all asked or been asked this very question before. Why does God, how could an all-good and all-powerful and all-loving God, how could that God allow bad things to happen to good people? How could he allow bad things to happen to any people, whether they're good or bad or not? He created the people. How dare he allow them to suffer? If God loves us, why does he allow suffering? And I know this is the moment everyone's been waiting for the entire lesson. I'm going to answer this question, this age-old question that has plagued humans for thousands of years. I'm about to give you the answer. How could God allow evil or suffering to exist in this world? Are you ready for the answer? I don't know. Sorry to disappoint you. I don't know the answer to this question, and this is serious. Neither does any other human who tells you they know or gives you some eloquent explanation as to why God allows suffering of humans in his world. I don't know, and neither does anybody else. But what I do know is that whenever or wherever humans are suffering, God is there and he is crying too. Because God, in some inexplicable way, suffers when his created humans suffer as well. Verse 36. Then the Jews said, "See how he loved him." But some of them said, "Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying?" There it is again. Everyone's asking this same exact question. How could he let this happen? If he could have, he would have stopped it. And again, I don't know why. But what I do know is that Jesus certainly could have stopped it. But he didn't. In verse 38. Jesus, once more, deeply moved, came to the tomb. It was a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. "Take away the stone," he said. "But Lord," said Martha, the sister of the dead man, "by this time there is a bad odor, for he has been there 4 days." Because you're so late, Jesus. And I mean, seriously, no way this is happening right now. Can you imagine mourning over a loved one who tragically died at a funeral, and then 4 days later someone shows up to mourn after the fact? And after he's already been buried, and they show up late, and now they're here, they're ready to mourn, and he goes to the grave and says, "Hey, dig him up for me. Go ahead and dig this guy up for me. I'm here to mourn." Jesus, Lord, listen, we all love you. You know everyone here loves you. But we can't do that. That would be super inappropriate. And even if it wasn't incredibly inappropriate, Jesus, he's been dead for 4 days. His body is decomposing. It's not even him, and he'll smell disgusting. He's been there 4 days. You're so late. Jesus, we can't do that. We can't open the grave. Then Jesus said, "Did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone. And then Jesus looked up and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this for the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me." When he said this, Jesus called in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." And the dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen and a cloth around his face. And Jesus said to them, "Take off the grave clothes and let him go." With his very words, Jesus calls Lazarus out of death. And then we get probably the most obvious statement of the entire New Testament here in verse 45. Therefore, many of the Jews who had come to visit Mary and had seen what Jesus did believed in him. Yeah, I bet they did believe in him. After they saw this guy with his mouth, with his words, call someone who'd been dead and buried for 4 days out of death. I bet they did believe him. And I'll tell you what, if any one of us had been there and never heard of who this Jesus guy was and not thought anything about him or not known anything about him and seen him do this, you would have believed too. And you would have spent the rest of your life believing that this guy has the power to raise people from the dead. Because many who saw what Jesus did believed in him. And the question for you today is simply this: do you believe that Jesus Christ is the resurrection and the life? Do you believe that ultimately, and maybe inexplicably, but ultimately, Jesus decides who lives? That if you would believe in him, even if you die, even when you die, you will yet live and live forever in the presence of your Lord who created you. If you haven't answered this question yet, I invite you to answer it right now. And if you need anything at all, don't hesitate. Come now as we stand and sing.